An update on Daytona potentially being the new home of the Jacksonville Jaguars temporarily. NASCAR wanting to expand their horizons internationally, like very internationally, and some other things, some about Le Mans and the trends that the internet saw. But yes, NASCAR, a lot of news, specifically in the international realm. NASCAR has been looking international in terms of races. They've talked about Mexico, Canada. Last week, we talked about NASCAR potentially going to the current F1 track, the circuit Gilles Villeneuve up in Montreal, Canada. And now it seems like NASCAR may expand internationally more, but we're going to talk about that in a bit because first I want to update you on a story from last week. Daytona International Speedway in Florida is the host of a couple NASCAR races, the 24 Hours of Daytona, and some other motorsports events. But what about the NFL? Could be a possibility. It's still a bit of a long shot, but it's a possibility. Last week, we talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars president, his statement on Daytona potentially being the new home as they renovate their stadium in Jacksonville. The options are Orlando, Gainesville, Daytona. And the Daytona option, they said that they were going to talk with track officials in the next couple of weeks, and this is what Daytona said about it. Daytona International Speedway is a world-renowned sports and entertainment venue and hosts a full schedule of events each year. As good neighbors in the Florida sports community, DIS, or Daytona International Speedway, will be speaking with the Jacksonville Jaguars to see if we can assist them with their potential upcoming facility needs around our scheduled events. That was the president of Daytona, Frank Keller, however you pronounce his name. All these names I pronounce wrong. I'm sorry. But that is their statement, or his statement, on potentially helping the Jaguars. So it looks like they are going to have discussions indeed. We already kind of knew that just from the perspective of the Jaguars, but now Daytona is also saying, yes, discussions will happen. So we'll see if it ends up being anything. On to the next topic, NASCAR internationally. This past weekend, NASCAR had an entry in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, one of the biggest races in the world, if not the biggest race in the world, an endurance race, 24 hours around an 8.467 mile racetrack in the streets, the city of Le Mans, France. Now, NASCAR got the Garage 56 entry this year. That is for an innovative car that is supposed to basically show a new technological thing or promote a sport, a car, whatever it may be, in this case, both. And NASCAR had the Garage 56 entry. There weren't really expectations in this thing in terms of obviously winning the whole thing. That wasn't going to happen, but it impressed. A lot of people were talking about it. People were very excited about this opportunity for NASCAR. People loved the car, the look of the car, the sound of the car seemed to be a big one that people enjoyed. And until their mechanical failure, or not failure, their mechanical issue that they were able to fix and get back out there, they were outrunning the whole GTE class, and they were even catching up to some of the LMP2 class and were running in the top 30 out of a 62 car field. So they were doing really good. Had a mechanical issue, took them about an hour to fix it, and they ended up finishing 39th, but a very respectable finish, and everyone was happy. Hendrick Motorsports, the team that kind of built the car, they were happy. NASCAR was happy, and apparently, so was the United States of America. There's this little Google Analytics trend that Adam Stern posted. It says, American interest in the 24 Hours of Le Mans over the last 2 decades hit a new high this month, according to Google Trends, data that goes back to 2004. So this is the 24 Hours of Le Mans on their trends, the interest over time. Obviously, we can see a new peak here over in 2023 that is way above anything else. The highest was about, 2015, 2016. That was almost 75. And then this one is almost to 100. I don't know what that graph is, but as you can tell, it definitely is the highest viewership or highest trending that Google has had for the 24 Hours of Le Mans in the United States. So yeah, obviously having a NASCAR car over there, NASCAR being the biggest motorsport in the United States of America, is a big deal, and that's how you're going to get that American trend. If you actually put a NASCAR stock car in the race, that is going to skyrocket any type of internet trends, whether it's, Google Analytics, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, NASCAR being in the actual race was a big deal. So yeah, I just thought that was a neat little graphic, cool little graphic there. But then there's this other bit of news from Adam Stern. NASCAR Le Mans entry is one part of its expanding global plans, with execs making trips all over the world recently and evaluating opportunities in regions like the Middle East. Ben Kennedy said he's already starting to think about the 2025, 2026, and 2027 schedule. Now, Ben Kennedy, he is the Senior Vice President of Racing Development and Strategy. So he does a lot of the scheduling stuff. He'll talk about why NASCAR, in videos, interviews, whatever it may be, he'll talk about like, oh, here's why we opted to go to the Circuit of the Americas. Here's why we decided to put dirt on Bristol. Here's why we decided to do the Chicago Street Course. He's kind of that guy that talks about that stuff. He's also a former driver. But yeah, this is interesting, especially all over the world, but then they specify the Middle East. That is certainly going to get a response from many people if NASCAR does indeed go to the Middle East, but expanding their global horizons. Let's start from the beginning here. I talked about last week NASCAR potentially going to Canada, and it's been talked about for a few months now about NASCAR potentially expanding into international waters, more specifically Mexico and Canada, because logistically that would be the best place to start. It's the closest country, the lowest cost, compared to like England, France, China, Australia, Middle East, somewhere in the Middle East. So it would make the most sense to start there and see how that goes. But now it seems like NASCAR is looking everywhere. Now, NASCAR does have international series. They've got a series in Brazil. They've got a Euro series. They do have a series in Canada, Mexico. So they have their own little mini series in these different countries, these different regions, continents, whatever it may be. So when I saw the first part of this, I thought, oh, they're looking at potentially creating new series in somewhere in the Middle East, like maybe a Saudi Arabian league. Maybe it's just in all of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Yemen, Oman, whoever wants to join, or teams that want to join from any of these countries, they just do a Middle East series. But then I saw the second part of this, when it talked about Ben Kennedy talking about the 2025, 2026, and 2027 schedules. And that's where I'm like, hold on a second. Are they actually thinking about putting a Cup Series, NASCAR Cup Series event in the Middle East in the next 5 years? Within the next 5 years, like less than 5 years. That is a lot. Now, I'm not saying that NASCAR should not go international, not go to the Middle East. I think that would be cool. If it was for something like an exhibition race, that would be cool, We saw this happen in the late 90s. NASCAR went to Japan. They did a couple of exhibition races there just for the fun of it. And no points, nothing like that, just to promote NASCAR over in Japan. So if this is like a potential promotional thing, that would be cool. Still, though, even if it's a Cup points race, even if it's a potential exhibition race, cost is going to be a major factor. These new cars, the first couple of years are going to be rough financially for the teams. They've kind of talked about it, how they don't have as many parts as they used to have. They got to spend more money because everyone has to go to a single source, and you can't really wreck them as much, that kind of thing, because, they're more expensive cars. But the ultimate goal of the next-gen car is to lower the cost in the long term. So the short term, it's going to hurt teams more financially, but in the long term, it's supposed to help them. So that's why I'm a little bit concerned about this idea. Transporting a car, 2 cars, all the gear that you need, the backup pieces, the backup parts, the pit stalls, the whole boxes with all the team computers, all the pit guns, all the little tiny things that you need to operate a NASCAR Cup Series team for a whole race. It's going to take a lot of money to transport that. Usually the teams, they load everything on a hauler, and a hauler driver drives it from Charlotte, North Carolina to Darlington Raceway in South Carolina, a couple hours away, to Long Pond, Pennsylvania, however many hours it is away, or they go all across the country to Sonoma, which takes a couple of days to get to. So usually you put it on a hauler, but now you're talking about potentially putting on planes, but I guess a boat would take a little bit too long. So you put it on a plane, like how much is this going to cost the teams? And if the teams can't afford it, like if you've got a charter and you have to enter this race, Are you going to get some help from NASCAR? Like, I don't know how that would work. Once again, I think it's a cool idea to go internationally for NASCAR. I think we should start in Canada and Mexico over the next few years if we're going to do this. Jumping from U.S., maybe dipping your toes in Canada, and then going straight to the Middle East in less than 5 years, that's a little bit too big of a jump if you ask me. It's a fun idea. I think it's a great idea promoting NASCAR, but it might be too soon. Just the cost of it all for these teams. I don't know what their numbers are, obviously, but just as a fan viewing from the outside, I feel like that would be too much. Now, if these teams truly are turning a profit in NASCAR, once these cars become more affordable in the long-term thing, like, 10, 15 years down the road, and then, yeah, let's do it. If everyone can do it, let's do it. If NASCAR's turning a profit. Or maybe, what if, it's like kind of like golf where we saw the Live show up and, it was a Saudi Arabian investment people. They ended up funding the Live League and they had tons and tons of money and they were trying to compete with the PGA. Like, what if they're trying to compete with NASCAR? They create their own NASCAR League and this is the NASCAR's way of saying, actually, hey, invest in us instead, something like that. I don't know. It could be, but yeah, so it's very interesting. Will NASCAR go to the Middle East? Also, if they were to go to the Middle East, the question would be where? Would they do something like they did with the LA Coliseum? Would they go to a soccer stadium and, pave it to a quarter-mile oval? Would they go to a potential road course? In Saudi Arabia, they got the Jeddah Street Circuit that that F1 has run. In Bahrain, F1 has run there as well. Qatar has a track that has MotoGP and also F1. And I'm trying to think where else. Abu Dhabi's got a track in the UAE. I'm trying to think. I think that's about it in terms of F1 tracks off the top of my head that NASCAR could run at. So if you're looking at tracks in the Middle East, you can run an F1 road course or a road course I don't know about. I don't know if they have ovals over there. You could make a dirt track in the middle of the desert. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they actually do this. Once again, I think it's a fun idea to go internationally, but let's ease into it. Let's not jump going from Canada to go into the Middle East, okay? Let's just ease into going internationally, okay? But that's all the news I've got for you today. NASCAR looking to expand their global horizons, and Daytona still a potential contender to host the, Jacksonville Jaguars. So thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed that race yesterday at Sonoma. We got an off week coming up. I don't think I ever mentioned that in the video yesterday. We have an off week, the one and only off week this season. So yeah, get your rest. Sleep on Sunday. You're not going to miss a race if you don't watch other racing outside NASCAR. But if you're an F1 fan, you've got Canada, the Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, in fact. But yeah, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.